The camera slowly pans across the opulent showroom of Lasari Jewelers, revealing row after row of empty velvet display stands where million-dollar diamonds once gleamed under carefully positioned lighting. Shattered glass crunches underfoot as the lens focuses on a single abandoned earring, a 3-carat solitaire that somehow escaped the night's devastation. Police sirens flash red and blue through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Chicago's Gold Coast district, casting an eerie glow across the ransacked luxury boutique. Detective tape flutters in the morning breeze as investigators move methodically through what was once one of the city's most exclusive jewelry destinations. The voiceover cuts through the silence. He cleaned the floors for 5 years, arriving after closing time when the diamonds slept in their velvet beds. But on one quiet Tuesday night in November, Luis Mendez didn't just clean the showroom, he cleaned out the vault instead. Close-up shots reveal the precision of the theft. Security cameras disabled with surgical accuracy. Alarm sensors bypassed. With technical expertise, and vault drawers opened with legitimate access codes. This wasn't a smash-and-grab robbery or a crime of desperation. This was the culmination of years of patient observation, meticulous planning, and perfect execution. Before we dive into this incredible story of how a night janitor vanished with $5.7 million in flawless diamonds, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment if you've ever passed by a jewelry store and wondered who holds the keys after dark. Trust me, after hearing Luis Mendez's story, you'll never look at the night cleaning crew the same way again. This is the story of how one invisible man used his access, his patience, and his intimate knowledge of Lasari Jewelers' routines to commit one of Chicago's most sophisticated jewelry heists and disappear without a trace. Luis Alejandro Mendez was the kind of person who moved through the world without leaving ripples. At 49, he stood average height with graying hair, work-worn hands, and the quiet demeanor of someone who had spent decades being professionally invisible. In Chicago's Gold Coast, where million-dollar condos tower over luxury boutiques, Luis was just another service worker who appeared after hours to maintain the illusion of effortless elegance. Born in El Salvador during the Civil War of the 1980s, Luis had immigrated to the United States in 1994 with his wife Maria and their infant daughter Sophia. Like thousands of other Central American immigrants, he had built a modest life through hard work, long hours, and the kind of reliable service that kept him employed but unnoticed. His English was functional but accented, his manner respectful but distant, and his presence so unremarkable that most people forgot he existed the moment he left the room. For 15 years, Luis had worked the night shift for Midwest Commercial Cleaning, a company that specialized in maintaining high-end retail spaces throughout Chicago's downtown district. His route included boutique clothing stores, art galleries, upscale restaurants, and exclusive jewelry shops that catered to clients who measured their purchases in carats rather than dollars. Lasari Jewelers had been part of Luis's cleaning circuit for the past 5 years. Located on North Michigan Avenue, the boutique occupied the ground floor of a historic building that had been converted into luxury retail space. The store's clientele included Chicago socialites, professional athletes, and business executives who valued privacy and discretion above all else. Appointments were by invitation only. Security was discreet but thorough, and the inventory included some of the world's rarest and most valuable gems. To the staff at Lasari, Luis was simply the cleaner, someone who arrived at 10 p.m. after the store closed, spent 3 hours maintaining the showroom and offices, and departed before dawn with barely a word spoken. He had keys to the building, knew the alarm codes, and was trusted with access to areas that few outsiders ever saw. After 5 years of flawless service, he had become part of the furniture, as invisible and unremarkable as the custom lighting fixtures he dusted each night. What nobody at Lasari knew was that Luis possessed an almost photographic memory for details, a natural curiosity about mechanical systems, and the patience to observe patterns that others never noticed. While he cleaned, he listened. While he dusted, he watched. While he mopped, he memorized the routines, conversations, and security procedures that governed one of Chicago's most exclusive jewelry operations. Luis lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Pilsen, a traditionally Mexican neighborhood on Chicago's Lower West Side. He drove a 15-year-old Honda Civic, shopped at discount grocery stores, and sent money to relatives in El Salvador every month. His life was structured around work, family, and church. He attended 6 a.m. Mass at St. Adalbert Catholic Church every Sunday, before going home to sleep off his night shift schedule. Neighbors described Luis as quiet and polite, someone who kept his lawn neat and never caused trouble. His daughter Sophia had graduated from college and worked as a nurse at Northwestern Memorial Hospital. His wife Maria cleaned houses for wealthy families in Lincoln Park and Lakeview. They were a typical immigrant family, working multiple jobs to maintain their modest middle-class lifestyle while saving money for retirement. The only unusual aspect of Luis's life was his fascination with mechanical puzzles and security systems. His apartment contained dozens of disassembled locks, electronic devices, and small mechanical gadgets that he studied and rebuilt as a hobby. Maria would later tell investigators that Luis could look at any lock or security device and quickly understand how it worked, often explaining the mechanisms in detail despite having no formal training in electronics or security technology. What the FBI would eventually discover was that Luis had been using his legitimate access to Luxury Jewelers to conduct a detailed reconnaissance operation spanning nearly 3 years. He had memorized the locations of security cameras, identified blind spots in the surveillance system, and observed the daily routines of staff members with the methodical precision of a professional intelligence operative. But Luis Mendez wasn't a professional criminal. He was a night janitor who had recognized an opportunity and possessed the patience, intelligence, and technical curiosity to exploit it. For 5 years, he had been trusted with the keys to millions of dollars in diamonds, and eventually the temptation became too great to resist. Luis Mendez's transformation from trusted janitor to diamond thief didn't happen overnight. It was the result of a patient, methodical reconnaissance operation that spanned nearly 3 years and demonstrated a level of criminal sophistication that would later astonish federal investigators. Luxury Jewelers represented the pinnacle of luxury retail security. The boutique's custom vault system had been designed by former military security specialists and installed by a company that specialized in protecting high-value assets for museums, galleries, and private collectors. The vault itself was embedded directly into the building's foundation, surrounded by steel-reinforced concrete and monitored by motion sensors, pressure plates, and infrared cameras. The store's daily operations followed strict security protocols that had been refined over decades of handling extremely valuable inventory. Each piece of jewelry was cataloged with precision, stored in specific locations, and accessed only through a complex system of dual authorization that required 2 staff members to be present during any vault operation. But Luis had identified a critical vulnerability in even the most sophisticated security system: human nature. No matter how advanced the technology, the system ultimately depended on people, and people developed patterns, shortcuts, and habits that could be observed and exploited by someone with unlimited access and unlimited time. Luis's reconnaissance began innocently enough. During his first year at Luxury, he had simply been curious about the mechanical systems that governed the store's operations. He noticed the different types of locks, the locations of security sensors, and the various electronic devices that maintained the boutique's climate control and lighting systems. His natural mechanical aptitude made him interested in understanding how these systems work together. By his second year, Luis had begun to recognize patterns in how the staff operated the security systems. He observed that the vault's primary access codes were changed monthly, but the override codes remained constant. He noticed that certain staff members were more careful about security protocols than others, and that the end-of-day closing procedures sometimes involved shortcuts when employees were tired or rushing to leave. The breakthrough in Luis's reconnaissance came during his 3rd year, when he realized that the store's security cameras had several blind spots that weren't immediately obvious to casual observers. The cameras were positioned to monitor customer areas in the main vault entrance, but they didn't adequately cover service areas, storage rooms, or the corridor where staff members often held private conversations about security procedures. Luis began staying later during his cleaning shifts, using the additional time to study the store's operations in greater detail. He discovered that the vault's floor-mounted safe system included a secondary access drawer that contained the store's most valuable individual pieces, items that were too precious to display in the main showroom and were only shown to select clients during private appointments. The secondary vault drawer used a different access system than the main vault. Instead of requiring dual authorization, it could be opened by a single staff member using a physical key combined with a 6-digit access code. Luis observed that this system was used infrequently, usually only when preparing for high-value private showings or when storing newly acquired pieces that hadn't yet been cataloged for the main inventory. Over several months, Luis identified the specific staff members who had access to the secondary vault system and began observing their behavior patterns. He noticed that the physical key was sometimes left unattended on office desks during busy periods, and that access codes were occasionally spoken aloud during telephone conversations about scheduling private appointments. Luis's most sophisticated reconnaissance technique involved the installation of a pinhole camera in a hallway light fixture that provided a clear view of the vault area. The camera was so small and professionally installed that it was never detected during routine security inspections. For over 6 months, Luis recorded staff interactions with the vault systems, gradually accumulating the intelligence he would need to execute his theft. The technical aspects of Luis's preparation demonstrated remarkable criminal sophistication. He created a wax impression of the secondary vault key during a brief moment when it was left unattended, then used the impression to have a duplicate key manufactured by a locksmith in a different neighborhood. He memorized the 6-digit access code by analyzing dozens of hours of surveillance footage that showed staff members entering the numbers. Luis also prepared his escape plan with the same methodical attention to detail. He obtained false identification documents under the name Carlos Rivera, opened bank accounts in that name, and established a mail forwarding service that would allow him to receive correspondence at an address that couldn't be traced back to his real identity. The final phase of Luis's preparation involved liquidating his legitimate assets without attracting attention. Over a period of several months, he sold personal belongings, closed bank accounts, and prepared his family for his disappearance by creating a cover story about taking a new job in another city. By November 2023, Luis had spent nearly 3 years preparing for a crime that would take less than 2 hours to execute. He had identified the perfect target, developed the technical means to access it, and created a comprehensive escape plan that would allow him to vanish with millions of dollars in stolen diamonds. The stage was set for one of Chicago's most sophisticated jewelry thefts, perpetrated not by a professional criminal organization, but by a 49-year-old night janitor who had used his access, his patience, and his intelligence to plan the perfect crime. The weather forecast for Tuesday, November 14th, called for severe thunderstorms across the Chicago metropolitan area, with the potential for power outages and flooding in low-lying areas. For Luis Mendez, it was exactly the conditions he had been waiting for. Electrical storms would provide natural cover for any anomalies in the building's security systems, and the reduced foot traffic on Michigan Avenue would minimize the risk of unexpected witnesses. Luis arrived at Lasari Jewelers at exactly 10:15 p.m., just 15 minutes later than his usual schedule. The slight delay was deliberate. He had observed that the store's closing procedures were sometimes rushed on stormy evenings, and staff members were eager to leave before the weather worsened. The digital cleaner's log recorded his entry with a standard employee badge scan, creating an official record that would initially support his alibi. The boutique's interior was dimly lit by security lighting that cast long shadows across the empty showroom. Luis began his cleaning routine exactly as he had done hundreds of times before, working methodically through the customer areas while mentally reviewing the plan he had rehearsed countless times in his imagination. At 10:45 p.m., Luis received confirmation that his reconnaissance had been accurate. The store's security system experienced a brief glitch during a particularly intense lightning strike, causing several motion sensors to reset and creating a 12-minute window when the monitoring station would attribute any unusual readings to storm-related electrical interference. Luis moved quickly to the service corridor where he had installed his hidden camera months earlier. Using a small electronic device he had constructed from commercially available components, he temporarily disabled the camera's recording function while maintaining its appearance of normal operation. The technique required precise timing and technical knowledge that demonstrated his sophisticated understanding of surveillance systems. The secondary vault access point was located in a storage room adjacent to the main showroom. Luis used his duplicated key to open the protective housing around the electronic lock panel, then carefully entered the 6-digit access code he had memorized from months of surveillance footage. The system accepted his authorization without triggering any security alerts, and the vault drawer slid open with a quiet mechanical hum. Inside the drawer, Luis found exactly what his reconnaissance had predicted: approximately 150 individual diamond pieces organized in custom velvet pouches, ranging from 2-carat solitaires to rare 10-carat specimens that represented some of the World's most valuable gems. The total value of the collection exceeded $5.7 million, making it one of the largest concentrations of portable wealth he had ever encountered. Working with surgical precision, Luis transferred the diamond pouches into a specially modified janitor's mop bucket that he had prepared for this exact purpose. The bucket's false bottom and sides were lined with foam padding that would protect the gems while maintaining the external appearance of a standard cleaning supply container. Soiled towels and cleaning rags were layered over the hidden compartments, creating the perfect camouflage for transporting millions of dollars in stolen diamonds. The entire vault access process took less than 18 minutes. Luis resealed the drawer, restored power to the disabled camera, and resumed his normal cleaning routine as if nothing unusual had occurred. His movements were calm and deliberate, showing no signs of the nervous energy that often betrays criminals during the commission of their crimes. At 11:30 p.m., Luis made his first strategic modification to his usual routine. Instead of completing his cleaning and departing immediately, he extended his work schedule by claiming that the storm had caused additional debris to be tracked into the showroom. The digital log system recorded his overtime hours, creating an official record that would initially support his explanation for staying later than usual. During the extended period, Luis performed actual cleaning work while waiting for the optimal moment to make his departure. He had studied weather radar and traffic patterns extensively, identifying Tuesday night around midnight as the time when Michigan Avenue would have minimal police patrol activity and maximum cover from the ongoing storm. At 12:47 a.m. on Wednesday, November 15, Luis completed his final security check of the building and prepared to leave with $5.7 million in stolen diamonds hidden in his cleaning supplies. The digital log recorded his departure as routine overnight maintenance completion, and the building's automated security system reactivated according to its standard programming. Louis loaded his cleaning equipment, including the modified mop bucket containing the stolen diamonds, into his Honda Civic and drove slowly through the storm-darkened streets of downtown Chicago. His route took him away from the Gold Coast district, through residential neighborhoods where his presence would attract no attention, and toward a predetermined safe house where he would complete the next phase of his escape plan. By 1:30 a.m., Luis Mendez had successfully executed one of the most sophisticated jewelry thefts in Chicago's history. The crime had been accomplished without violence, without triggering security systems, and without leaving any immediate evidence that anything was missing. It would be nearly 9 hours before anyone realized that Lissery Jewelers had been robbed of its most valuable inventory by the trusted janitor who had cleaned their floors for 5 years. Wednesday morning at Lissery Jewelers began with the kind of anticipation that made the luxury jewelry business both exciting and nerve-wracking. Store owner Elena Lissery had scheduled a 9:30 a.m. private showing for Harrison Blackwell, a Chicago real estate developer who was shopping for a 5-carat engagement ring for his fiancée. The appointment represented a potential $300,000 sale and required access to some of the store's most exclusive inventory. Elena arrived at the boutique at 9:05 a.m., accompanied by her assistant manager, David Chen, and senior sales associate, Maria Rodriguez. The morning routine was methodical and precise: disarm the security systems, conduct a visual inspection of the showroom, and prepare the private viewing room where high-value pieces were presented to select clients. The first indication that something was wrong came during Elena's visual inspection of the main showroom. After 23 years in the luxury jewelry business, she had developed an instinctive sense for the subtle details that most people never noticed. The display cases appeared normal, the lighting was functioning properly, and the security system showed no alerts or irregularities from the previous evening. But something felt different. Elena's attention was drawn to the storage room where the secondary vault system was located. The door was properly locked, the security panel showed normal status, and there were no obvious signs of disturbance. However, her key seemed to turn more easily than usual, and she noticed scuff marks on the floor that hadn't been there the previous day. "David," Elena called to her assistant manager, "when you're ready, I need you to help me access the private collection for the Blackwell appointment." David joined Elena in the storage room and began the standard procedure for accessing the secondary vault drawer. He inserted his authorization key, entered his portion of the dual access code, and waited for Elena to complete the security sequence. The electronic lock disengaged with its familiar mechanical click, and the vault drawer began to slide open. The drawer was empty. Every velvet pouch, every individual diamond setting, Every precious gemstone that had been securely stored the previous evening had vanished. The specialized foam inserts that held each piece in place were undisturbed, but the inventory that they were designed to protect was simply gone. Elena's first reaction was confusion rather than panic. The secondary vault was accessed so infrequently that she briefly wondered if she had confused the storage locations or if someone had moved the inventory to the main vault system for routine cataloging. "David, check the main vault logs," Elena said, her voice carefully controlled. "Maybe someone moved the private collection yesterday evening." David consulted the computerized inventory system that tracked every piece of jewelry in the store's collection. According to the electronic records, the private collection should have been in the secondary vault drawer, exactly where they had attempted to find it. No transfers had been logged, no pieces had been removed for cleaning or appraisal, and no staff members had accessed the system since Elena's final security check the previous evening. At 9:23 a.m., exactly 7 minutes before Harrison Blackwell was scheduled to arrive for his appointment, Elena made the call that would transform a routine business day into a federal criminal investigation. "This is Elena Lasari at Lasari Jewelers on North Michigan Avenue," she told the 911 dispatcher. "I need to report a theft. Someone has stolen approximately $5.5 million worth of diamonds from our store." Within minutes, the boutique was swarming with Chicago police detectives, FBI agents, and crime scene technicians. The store was immediately sealed as a federal crime scene due to the high value of the stolen merchandise and the sophisticated nature of the theft. The initial investigation focused on the most obvious suspects, store employees with vault access. Elena, David, Maria, and 2 other staff members were interviewed extensively, their financial records examined, and their activities during the previous 48 hours thoroughly documented. All were cleared of suspicion within hours. Their alibis were solid, their financial situations were stable, and none had the technical knowledge or access required to execute such a sophisticated theft. The breakthrough came when FBI forensic specialists began analyzing the building's security systems and access logs. Special Agent Rebecca Martinez noticed that the cleaning service had logged extended hours on Tuesday evening, with Luis Mendez remaining in the building until 12:47 a.m., nearly 2 hours later than his usual departure time. More significantly, the investigation revealed that one of the hallway security cameras had experienced a brief malfunction during the exact time period when the theft must have occurred. The camera's recording showed normal activity until 10:47 p.m., then resumed at 11:05 p.m., with no indication of what had happened during the 18-minute gap. "This wasn't a coincidence," Agent Martinez reported to her supervisor. "Someone with detailed knowledge of the building's security systems temporarily disabled that camera during the theft. The timing is too precise to be accidental, and the technical expertise required suggests inside knowledge." By Thursday afternoon, investigators had obtained search warrants for Luis's apartment and employment records. What they found in Pilsen confirmed their worst fears. The apartment had been systematically cleaned out days before the theft. Personal belongings were gone, financial accounts had been closed, and neighbors reported not seeing Luis or his family since the previous weekend. Luis's employer, Midwest Commercial Cleaning, provided his personnel records and background check information, but could offer no explanation for why their trusted employee had apparently used his access to commit one of Chicago's most sophisticated jewelry thefts. Company President Jennifer Walsh expressed shock and disbelief. "Luis had been with us for 15 years. His background check was perfect. This is completely out of character." The FBI's technical analysis revealed the elegant sophistication of Luis's crime. He had exploited his legitimate access to conduct extensive reconnaissance, had obtained unauthorized vault access through technical knowledge and patience, and had executed the theft during optimal conditions that minimized the risk of detection. Most troubling was the realization that Luis had planned his escape with the same meticulous attention to detail he had applied to the theft itself. The discovery that he had disappeared days before the crime was detected gave him a significant head start that might prove impossible to overcome. Agent Martinez briefed her team on the scope of the challenge. "We're dealing with someone who spent years preparing for this crime and understood exactly how our investigation would proceed. He's had at least a 72-hour head start, and he's demonstrated sophisticated operational security. This is going to be a difficult capture." The discovery that Luis Mendez had vanished with $5.7 million in diamonds marked the beginning of what would become one of the FBI's most challenging jewelry theft investigations, a crime so precisely planned and executed that it left minimal evidence and no clear leads for federal agents to pursue. The FBI's Chicago field office assembled a specialized task force to pursue Luis Mendez, led by Special Agent Rebecca Martinez, a 14-year veteran with extensive experience in high-value theft investigations and international fugitive cases. The Mendez investigation presented unique challenges that distinguished it from typical jewelry store robberies or inside job cases. Most jewelry thefts are crimes of opportunity or desperation, Agent Martinez explained to her team. Someone smashes a window, grabs what they can, and runs. This is completely different. We're dealing with someone who spent years planning this operation and designed his escape to exploit weaknesses in our standard investigative procedures. The task force's initial focus involved reconstructing Luis's life and identifying any associates, family members, or financial connections that might provide leads to his current whereabouts. Immigration records revealed that Luis had entered the United States legally in 1994 and had maintained steady employment and residence throughout his 29 years in Chicago. Financial forensic specialists discovered that Luis had been methodically liquidating his assets for several months before the theft. Bank records showed systematic withdrawals from savings accounts, the sale of his Honda Civic to a cash buyer, and the cancellation of insurance policies and subscription services. The process had been so gradual and unremarkable that it attracted no attention from financial monitoring systems designed to detect suspicious activity. Computer forensics examination of Luis's personal devices revealed only thoroughly wiped equipment with no recoverable data. His internet service provider's records showed routine usage patterns with no suspicious searches related to diamond fencing, international travel, or identity fraud techniques that might indicate his criminal intentions. The investigation revealed that Luis's wife Maria and daughter Sophia had apparently been unaware of his criminal planning. Both had continued their normal work schedules until the weekend before the theft, when Luis told them he had accepted a new job opportunity in another city and they needed to relocate immediately. The family had packed their belongings and departed Chicago on Sunday, November 12th, 2 days before the theft occurred. Luis kept his criminal planning completely compartmentalized from his family life, noted FBI behavioral analyst Dr. Patricia Williams. His wife and daughter genuinely believed they were relocating for legitimate employment reasons. This suggests a high level of criminal sophistication and emotional control. Maria and Sophia were located 3 days after the theft at a motel in Tucson, Arizona, where they had been waiting for Luis to join them with information about their new home and his new job. Both were devastated to learn about his criminal activities and cooperated fully with federal investigators, providing detailed information about Luis's recent behavior and any contacts he might have made. The search of Luis's abandoned Chicago apartment yielded crucial evidence about the sophistication of his planning. Hidden in a basement storage area, investigators found detailed floor plans of Luxury Jewelers, photographs of security systems, and handwritten notes documenting staff schedules and security procedures. The materials represented years of careful observation and indicated that Luis had been planning the theft far longer than initially suspected. Most significantly, investigators discovered the remains of Luis's homemade surveillance equipment, including the pinhole camera he had installed in the store's hallway light fixture. Technical analysis revealed that the device had been professionally constructed using commercially available components and had been capable of recording high-quality video for extended periods. The investigation expanded internationally when agents discovered that Luis had obtained false identification documents under multiple names. The fake passport bearing the name Carlos Rivera had been used to open bank accounts, rent vehicles, and establish mail forwarding services that could support long-term evasion of law enforcement. Border security records were analyzed extensively, but showed no evidence that Luis had attempted to leave the United States through official channels. Immigration officials in Mexico and Central America were provided with Luis's photograph and biographical information, but reported no credible sightings or border crossing attempts. The most promising lead came from surveillance footage at a Greyhound bus station in Columbus, Ohio, showing a man matching Luis's description purchasing a ticket for New York City on Thursday, November 16th, 2 days after the theft was discovered. The individual paid cash for the ticket, kept his face partially concealed, and disappeared into the bus terminal's crowds before additional surveillance could be obtained. FBI agents flooded bus stations, train terminals, and airports throughout the Northeast Corridor, but found no additional evidence of Luis's movements. The trail went cold in New York City, where the massive transportation network and large immigrant population provided countless opportunities for someone with false identification to disappear permanently. Diamond industry specialists were consulted to understand how Luis might attempt to fence $5.7 million worth of stolen gems. Experts explained that the diamond's specific characteristics and provenance would make them extremely difficult to sell through legitimate channels, but that international black markets in cities like New York, Miami, and Los Angeles might provide outlets for someone with the right connections. Moving that volume of high-end diamonds requires sophisticated criminal contacts, explained Dr. James Morrison, a consultant who had studied international gem trafficking for the FBI. Luis either had connections we don't know about, or he's sitting on the stones waiting for the heat to die down. Either way, those diamonds are going to be very hard to trace. The FBI offered a $100,000 reward for information leading to Luis's capture and the recovery of the stolen diamonds. The announcement generated hundreds of tips from across the country, including reported sightings in Texas, California, Florida, and New York. Extensive investigation revealed that none of the sightings could be verified, but each required significant resources to investigate properly. As the case entered its 6th month, Agent Martinez acknowledged that traditional investigative methods might not be sufficient to locate Luis Mendez. Unlike many fugitives who make mistakes due to desperation or inexperience, Luis had demonstrated exceptional planning and operational security that suggested he might remain undetected indefinitely. "We're dealing with someone who understood our capabilities before he committed his crime," Martinez reported to FB1 headquarters. "He anticipated our response and prepared accordingly. Unless he makes a significant operational error or develops financial pressures that force him to fence the diamonds, this case could remain open for years." The Luis Mendez investigation had become a testament to how patience, technical knowledge, and careful planning could allow a determined individual to commit a major crime and disappear into the vast anonymity of American society. It challenged traditional assumptions about criminal profiles and demonstrated that the most dangerous thieves might be the ones who appear most ordinary and trustworthy. 7 years have passed since Luis Mendez walked out of Lasari Jewelers with $5.7 million in diamonds hidden in his janitor's mop bucket, and his case has become one of the FBI's most enduring unsolved mysteries. The investigation remains technically active, but the trail has gone completely cold, and Luis has achieved something that most criminals never manage. He has vanished without a trace. The impact of Luis's crime extended far beyond the immediate financial loss to Lasari Jewelers. His sophisticated exploitation of trusted insider access forced a complete reevaluation of security protocols throughout the luxury retail industry. Jewelry stores nationwide reviewed their cleaning contracts, implemented enhanced background check procedures for service workers, and installed additional surveillance systems to monitor areas that had previously been considered low risk. Luis didn't just steal diamonds, explained Dr. Patricia Williams, a criminal justice professor who has studied the case extensively. He shattered the assumption that service workers with legitimate access could be trusted implicitly. His crime forced the entire luxury retail industry to recognize that the most dangerous threats often come from the people we trust most completely. The technical sophistication of Luis's reconnaissance and execution has made his case a study in criminal justice and security training programs. Unlike crimes of passion or desperation, his theft demonstrated how patient, intelligent planning could overcome even sophisticated protective measures designed specifically to prevent inside jobs. Security professionals now refer to Mendez-type vulnerabilities when discussing potential weaknesses in systems that rely heavily on trusted insider access. The case has influenced security protocol development, employee screening procedures, and surveillance system design throughout the luxury goods industry. Media fascination with the case has grown steadily over time. True crime documentaries, podcasts, and investigative reports continue to analyze every aspect of Luis's planning and execution. His complete disappearance in the absence of any credible sightings have elevated him to almost legendary status among those interested in perfect crimes and successful fugitive cases. The psychological profile developed by the FBI remains the most comprehensive analysis of Luis's motivations and methods. Behavioral specialists concluded that his crime represented not financial desperation, but a combination of opportunity, technical challenge, and perhaps resentment at being invisible and undervalued despite his obvious intelligence and capabilities. Lewis lived in a world where his abilities weren't recognized, noted criminal psychologist Dr. Amanda Foster. He was significantly more observant and technically capable than his job required, and he may have seen the theft as his way of proving just how much everyone had underestimated him. The $5.7 million in stolen diamonds remains missing and untraceable. Gemology experts believe that Luis would need sophisticated criminal contacts to convert the stones into usable currency, but no credible intelligence has emerged about any attempts to fence the stolen inventory through known black market channels. Some law enforcement officials theorize that Luis may be holding the diamonds indefinitely, living modestly off savings while waiting for the investigation to lose intensity. Others believe he may have established connections with international criminal organizations capable of moving high-value gems through overseas markets. The FBI's reward offer of $100,000 remains in effect, though tips have diminished significantly in recent years. Agent Rebecca Martinez, now retired from the Bureau, continues to receive periodic updates on any developments, but acknowledges that the case may never be solved. Luis demonstrated exceptional criminal sophistication, Martinez reflects. He understood our investigative methods, anticipated our response, and planned his escape accordingly. Unless he makes a significant mistake or someone with direct knowledge comes forward, he may have achieved the perfect disappearance. Lissery Jewelers recovered from the theft through insurance coverage and has rebuilt its reputation as one of Chicago's premier luxury retailers. However, the store's security protocols have been completely redesigned, and no single service worker now has unsupervised access to high-value inventory areas. Luis's family has attempted to rebuild their lives while living under the shadow of his crime. Maria found work as a housekeeper in Arizona, while Sophia continues her nursing career. Both have cooperated fully with ongoing FBI investigations and maintain that they had no knowledge of Luis's criminal planning. The search for Luis Mendez continues sporadically, driven more by tips from the public than by active federal investigation. Reported sightings occur periodically. A janitor in Las Vegas whose technical knowledge seems unusual. A maintenance worker in Miami who pays for everything in cash. A man in rural New Mexico whose appearance matches Luis's description. None have proven legitimate, but each generates brief renewed hope that Luis might eventually surface or make the mistake that leads to his capture. Immigration officials throughout North and Central America have been provided with his photograph and biographical information, but no credible international sightings have been reported. The legend of Luis Mendez serves as a permanent reminder that the most sophisticated crimes are often committed by individuals who appear completely ordinary and trustworthy. His case has influenced security procedures, investigative techniques, and academic understanding of insider threat profiles throughout the law enforcement community. Whether Luis Mendez will ever be caught remains an open question that may never be answered. His crime was so precisely planned and his disappearance so thoroughly executed that he may have achieved something most criminals never manage: permanent freedom from consequences. He spent 5 years pushing a mop through Chicago's most exclusive jewelry store, invisible to the wealthy clients who stepped around him as they examined million-dollar gems. But on one stormy Tuesday night, Luis Mendez proved that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one nobody notices. Luis Alejandro Mendez remains on the FBI's most wanted list under jewelry theft and interstate transportation of stolen property charges. The stolen diamonds, valued at $5.7 million, have never been recovered. If you have information about Luis Mendez's whereabouts or the location of the stolen Lissery Jewelers inventory, contact the FBI immediately. A reward of $100,000 is offered for information leading to his capture and the recovery of the stolen diamonds. The case file remains open and the search continues,